Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we have even more good news. It appears that Wargaming can't stop and won't stop cooking in regards to aircraft carrier balancing changes. So let's go ahead and get on into this. You can find a link to this in the description down below if you want to read along as I read aloud. And also while you're down there, why don't you drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. Especially if you like being kept up to date with all World of Warships news. So, let's go ahead and get on into it. The DevBlog is titled Closed Test 14.7 Aircraft Balance Changes. Captains, we continue our standardization of carrier-related systems. And update 14.7 will introduce a few more balance refinements to aerial mechanics. The first one is maximum base detectability range by air for all ships set to 10 kilometers. This value replaces any previous aerial detectability ranges higher than 10 kilometers and can be reduced further still via commander skills and upgrades. The change will particularly benefit battleships, large cruisers, and carriers by lowering the frequency and likelihood of being spotted from the air. So if you don't know, the way detectability works in game, you've got your surface detectability range, which is the range at which surface ships can spot you. And then you have your aerial detection range, which is the range at which, well, airplanes can spot you. Typically, your air detection range is normally a few kilometers shorter than your surface detection range. GK, for example, its base detectability range by sea is 17.6 kilometers. Its detection range by air is 14.9 kilometers. So it's, again, like 2 or 3 kilometers shorter than your surface detection range. But now, for like the GK, it's going to be just 10 kilometers flat. And this is huge because, well, not only is that quite small, but of course when you take your modules and commander skills, you can get that down by another 20%. So in the GK's case, 14.9, I'll just call it 15 kilometers for simplicity's sake. You take concealment module, concealment expert, you can get that down now to probably like now, 12 kilometers. But with it being 10 kilometers, well, that's for some really easy math, you can get that down to 8 kilometers now, to where the plane essentially has to be almost on top of your AA range in order to spot you. So that is absolutely huge for battleships, large cruisers, and probably a couple of heavy cruisers, and I don't think really any light cruisers have a air detection range that's that much. Destroyers and such, they already have minuscule air detection ranges as of right now, so that is pretty dang good and a pretty significant nerf to plane spotting. So this in and of itself will help cut back on a lot of that accidental spotting, where the plane it's not even going after you, but it flies within, like, again, the GK, for example, a 15 kilometer bubble of your ship, and now you're spotted by some random plane. And does this apply to, oh yeah, this is, changing the ship's characteristics, not the plane spotting. So I'm assuming this will, of course, work for spotters and fighters as well. So you can't, just plop a fighter in the middle of, the open ocean. Now you, spot half of the enemy team because you just so happen to be within their AA bubble when it comes to, battleships and large cruisers and heavy cruisers and such. So this is a significant change to plane spotting, and a big nerf to it in my humble opinion, especially coupling it with the nerfs to plane spotting that we went over, what was it, not yesterday's video but the day before that, where have all the changes happening there. So this is a pretty nice change in my opinion. Weird that they decided to announce it a little while after the first round of changes to CVs, and this is still coming in 14.7 too, so like, I don't know, I guess they decided this one was good enough to go to as well. Now, there is a change for CVs that is most certainly going to help them out in some ways. So what they say here is that the standard spotting range, the render distance for all planes increased from 15 to 20 kilometers. All aircraft will now have a standard spotting range rendering distance of 20 kilometers. This allows carrier players to better assess battlefield conditions, coordinate with spotting provided by allies, and make more informed decisions about striking targets. These updates aim to make aerial spotting more intuitive and consistent across all ship types and supplement the improvements announced earlier, which is linked to the previous DevBlog. So this does not mean that the carrier's planes now have a 20-kilometer spotting range. This just means that the ships will render in at 20 kilometers instead of 15 kilometers. So it gives the carrier player a better visual indicator of what they're coming up against. So you might be thinking, well, that's crazy. That's going to be so much more than surface ships. It's actually not. The distance at which surface ships render in spotted targets is, I believe, like 50-something kilometers, which is why you can normally see most of the map if it's spotted, except for, like, those ships hiding out in the way back corners, and then that's when you get the little 2D mini-map spotting. So it's the same case here for CVs. It just allows the already spotted ships to be rendered on the screen a little bit earlier, which will give them a little bit more of a heads up about, what they're about to fly into, which that's something you don't really hear a lot about when it comes to CV gameplay. We always talk about how CVs can just get from point A to point B, like, instantly, which, yeah, sure, the planes are fast, but in most cases you can't just fly straight to where you want to go, because if you do, you're going to fly across, AA bubbles from ships you didn't even know were there, and there might be something like a Minotaur or a Wooster or one of the Dutch cruisers in your way that has really good AA. So naturally, you can't just fly straight over those ships. You are going to lose planes. And you can't just fly over a group of 4 or 5 ships either, because, believe it or not, despite what you might read about online, 4 or 5 ships stacked up, that is enough AA to start shredding planes. So you can't do that. You got to fly around their AA bubble and then fly around the next ship's AA bubble until you get to the target ship that you really want to. And if you look at, like, your AA ranges too, 5-6 kilometers may not sound like a lot, but that's a pretty significant chunk of space on this game's scale that you have to fly around. So this just gives CV players a better chance to, see what they're up against and fly safely to their target ship. But also too, with the changes to the detection range for surface ships, I mean, good God, 10 kilometers, and again, you put the two the commander skill and the module on for detection. I mean, most ships will run that because being able to, disengage is a pretty big priority for a lot of surface ships, especially, battleships and such. The only way you can really stop getting HE spammed is if you go undetected. So a lot of battleships take, the concealment module and the commander skill because of that. So a lot of them are going to be running, 8-kilometer air detection ranges, which means that that's 2 kilometers away from a lot of AA ranges. So, basically with how fast planes are going, if you don't know the ship's there already, if it's not being spotted by, a friendly player, and then suddenly you just stumble upon them, by the time, you really get to react, you're probably going to be inside their AA bubble, unless, you're just right on top of it, and the second they pop up, you slam A or D and get out of their AA bubble. So I think it's, a pretty good thing that they can, see what's already spotted by another 5 kilometers, and you get that pathing done. If you really want a good, idea of it, I know it's going to sound blasphemous, but you play CVs. Like, go try out some of the lower tier CVs, and, just see what it's like for them to, try and get around the map. It's not quite as easy as it's always made out to be. Nothing in this game is. And you'll see why, pathing and, figuring out how you're going to get to your target is a big part of CV gameplay. So, yeah, that is one of the big things about the rework, too, is that, you have the travel mode where you can, just fly above all the flak. You can just get to the target so much faster. That's one of the big complaints about the CV rework, is that it makes that easier for CVs. So, I mean, yeah, but again, it's not always what it's made up to be online. So these changes, coupled with the changes from yesterday, I think Wargaming is doing an excellent job of trying to address at least the issues that we have currently with CVs and the incidental spotting and the casual spotting that they get so much of. So I think these are some pretty good changes. 14.7 looking like it's going to be a pretty banger of an update. We've got the beginning of the 10th anniversary event where we can get our 32,000 doubloons are still for free. We've got the GQ Johnny event kicking off. We've got all these changes coming on top of each other with CVs and subs. And keep in mind, again, this is part of the same patch where we're getting the changes to aerial and acoustic torpedoes, where they will no longer do citadel damage. So you have all of this on top of each other in 14.7. So 14.7 looks like it's going to be a party, and I cannot wait for it. So guys, that's all we got for today for the news. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, wonderful rest of your week and weekend, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.